Okay, student, now we'll discuss about labor force and workforce. Then so now first we discuss about the labor force. So what is labor force? All persons who are working and though not working are seeking and able for work are deemed to be as labor force. So who are labor force? Basically the concept of labor force is those who are engaged in work and those who are seeking for work. Together we say they are labor force. Okay, that is why the first line it is written here that all persons who are seeking, who are working, that means having job, and though not working are seeking and available for work are deemed to be in the labor force. That means both the workers, those who are already engaged in work and those who are seeking for work, okay, both the sectors, both the workers, both type of workers, those who are engaged in work and those who are not engaged in work, that means try to get some work or demanding some work or job, okay, together we say they are labor force. Correspondingly, those who are not working and are neither seeking nor available for work are considered outside the labor force. So those persons who are corresponding, those who are not working, the persons who are not working, either they are not working, they are not trying to get any job, okay, some persons who are not working and some persons who are not seeking for available job, they will be considered outside the labor force. The persons who are not working, those who are not working and not seeking for available job or available work, they are considered as outside the labor force. They are considered as the outside of labor force. That means they will not be considered in labor force. Why? Because either they are not working or they have no intention to work at all, any type of work. They have no intention, they have no demand, they have no want for doing any type of work. Those persons will be considered as outside the labor force. So which persons we will take in the labor force? The peoples who are either engaged in work, that means the persons who are either working, or those who are trying to get the job, that means those who are seeking for job. Either they are getting job or they are not getting job, but they are try to get some jobs. They are considered as labor force. So we can write that labor force equals to persons working, that means number of persons who are working, and persons seeking. Whether they are getting job or not, that we don't know, but at least they are trying, at least they are seeking for work. Okay, that means what is the equation of labor force? The labor force is the persons who are working and the persons who are seeking for work. Okay, these together we say labor force. This together we say labor force. Next is workforce. What is workforce? Workforce, the number of persons who are actually employed at a particular time, are known as workforce. That means the number of persons, or the number of individuals or the number of peoples who are employed at a particular time. The number of persons or the number of peoples who are engaged in work, or the number of persons or the number of peoples who are employed at a particular time, the number of peoples who are employed in any type of productive activities, they are called workforce. Okay, it includes all those persons who are actually engaged in productive activities. So that means workforce means the number of persons who are actually really involved in productive activities. The number of persons who are really, that means actually involved or engaged in productive activity. The number of persons, the number of individuals, the number of people who are actually engaged in productive activities, they are workforce. Now there are some provisions here. The provision is how to calculate labor force. So how to calculate labor force is there are some rules here, there are some norms here, how to calculate labor force. So to get the labor force, subtract the following total population. So from our country's total population, we have to subtract the number of peoples, then we get labor force. So from our country's total populations, to whom we have to subtract the unfit people or old person. Number one is, from total population we have to subtract unfit people or old or handicapped person or unfit people, we have to subtract from total population. Number one. Number two, people who are not willing to work. Number two is not willing to work. We will subtract them from total population. So number one, unfit people, that means handicapped, old person, subtract from total population. Subtract those persons who are not willing to work. And number three, people who are not available for work. People who are not available for work, that means the persons who are not getting jobs, that means the persons who are not getting work, the number of persons who do not have some available work for them. Okay, that persons will be subtracted from total population. So there are 3 points, there are three categories of peoples. If we subtract these 3 categories of people from total population, then we get labor force. Then we get this labor force. If we subtract these 3 categories of people from our total population, then we get labor force. There are some another provisions also, that the child below 15 years and old persons above 60 years will not be included in labor force. That means child below 15 years and old person above 60 years above will not be included in the labor force. Okay, next, labor force participation, the ratio of labor force participation rate. What is labor force? This is a 1 marks question. It may comes in your exam. Labor force participation labor force participation rate. So what is labor force participation rate? The labor force participation rate is the ratio. It is the ratio of what? Labor force to total population. The ratio of labor force to total population is called labor force participation. That means it is the ratio of our country's labor force divided by total population. Okay, total population. So what is labor force participation rate? The labor force participation rate is a ratio. Is a ratio of what? Labor force to total population. Labor force to total population. Okay, this is labor force participation rate. Okay, and that much for today.